The first time Holly waved at her new neighbor, she didn't expect to be ignored. She figured maybe the woman hadn't seen her, sun glare or something. But by the third time, the message was clear. She just didn't want to be bothered. Holly had moved into the neighborhood 2 weeks earlier, a quiet cul-de-sac where lawn stripes mattered, and HOA newsletters came with a passive-aggressive tone. She was soft-spoken, maybe even a little shy, but friendly in the way people raised in wide, open spaces tend to be. Her sundresses were plain, her car older than most in the area, and she didn't seem the type to gossip over hedges. That was probably what irritated Karen the most. Because Karen liked attention. She liked to be in charge. And above all, she liked knowing people were watching. Holly wasn't giving her that. Instead, Holly was just living her life, hanging wind chimes, planting lavender, smiling at people who didn't smile back. It wasn't long before Karen, the self-appointed queen of the HOA, started poking around. First, it was friendly comments, like how Holly's mailbox didn't match the rest, or how her welcome mat was a little too rustic. Then came the actual citations, ridiculous things like improperly stacked firewood or having an unapproved shade of daisy in her flower beds. Holly took it all in stride. Calm, almost too calm. And maybe that's what made Karen press harder, like she needed to get a reaction out of her. But what no one on the block knew, not Karen, not the HOA, not even the neighbors who'd started to whisper, was that Holly had a secret, and it was one that would change everything. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from. This one gets wild. It started with a lawn sign, a small wooden one, no bigger than a shoebox, staked into the soil right at the edge of Holly's yard. Painted by hand, 2 white letters on faded blue that read, "You are enough." It wasn't flashy. No neon. No politics. Just a soft little message you might walk past and smile at on your way to the mailbox. Karen saw it and lost her mind. By 7 a.m. the next morning, a complaint had already been submitted to the HOA, violation of neighborhood aesthetics, unauthorized signage, potential distraction to drivers. Holly, still in her robe, found the notice taped to her door with red ink underlines like someone had really wanted her to feel scolded. But she didn't remove the sign. She didn't even respond. Instead, she placed a ceramic bird figurine next to it. That seemed to escalate things. Within days, Karen was knocking on doors, gathering support for a proposed motion to fine Holly for non-compliance. She phrased it with a polite smile and tight eyes, like she was doing the neighborhood a favor. Some of us are trying to maintain standards, you know. And while a few nodded along, others started raising eyebrows. Because, really? Over a tiny wooden sign? Still, the pressure kept mounting. Karen showed up again, this time with an HOA board member in tow, a guy named Craig who wore sunglasses even indoors and didn't seem to know how to look people in the eye. They didn't even ring the doorbell. They just stood at the edge of Holly's lawn, pointing and scribbling things on a clipboard. Holly came outside, quiet as always, and simply asked, "Do you need help with something?" Karen gave her a smirk. "No, dear, just documenting violations." By the following week, things had shifted. Holly's lavender bushes were mysteriously flattened, trampled by what looked like bicycle tires. Her garden hose had been sliced, cleaned through, like someone took scissors to it. And the soft blue paint on her porch railing now had a streak of dark brown running through it. Muddy handprints, like someone had gripped it hard while walking past. Still, she said nothing. But the next morning, the sign was gone. Karen had taken it. Everyone knew. She didn't even bother to deny it. Said it fell, and she helped dispose of the debris. Holly stood there quietly while Karen explained, in that syrupy tone of hers, how it was all just a misunderstanding. And then, Holly smiled. Just a small, polite curve of the lips. No anger. No accusation. Just a smile. Then she walked inside and closed the door. The next day, a brand new sign appeared. Bigger this time. Painted a little brighter. Same message. You are enough. Only now it was nailed to a post, and the base was secured with bricks. 2 ceramic birds sat on top, one with a tiny crown. It was so sweet, it almost dared you to be mean to it. Karen stormed over with a printed copy of the HOA bylaws, practically shaking. This violates Section 4.3. Exterior ornamentation. Holly blinked. Does it? Karen shoved the paper toward her. You can't just do whatever you want because you're new and... She stopped short, noticing a man step out onto Holly's porch. Tall, gray beard, quiet eyes. Holly turned to him, gently. Dad, this is Karen. He stepped forward, offered Karen a hand, and smiled. She didn't take it, just stared at him. He tilted his head, slow and calm. Is there a problem with my daughter's house? For a second, Karen didn't speak. She just stared, first at the man's hand, then at his face, her brain working overtime to process the shift in energy, because there was something about him. Not loud or flashy, just calm, controlled, the kind of calm that didn't ask for respect. It assumed it. Holly stood beside him like nothing was unusual, like this wasn't the most tension-filled patch of sidewalk in the county. Dad's just in town for a while, she said casually. Wanted to help me get settled. Karen cleared her throat. Well, that's fine, but we still need to discuss the signage. And the bird figurines. There are rules. Her dad smiled, warm, but not soft. Rules. He said it like he'd been dealing with rules his whole life, and breaking the ones that didn't make sense. Karen flinched. Don't worry, he added, his voice low and easy. I'm familiar with how HOAs work. In fact, I've sat on a few. Oh. Karen's tone sharpened. Well, then you know enforcement is necessary for her. He cut her off. Not rudely, just clean. I also know that citations without due process can be considered harassment. Karen bristled. Excuse me? You're excused. Then he smiled again. But if you have concerns, I'd be happy to discuss them with your board or your legal team. Holly's mouth twitched like she was trying not to laugh. Karen's face went red, then pale. There's no need for hostility, she muttered. We're just trying to maintain standards. Holly's dad gave her a long, quiet look. Some standards, he said softly, are worth maintaining. Others are just ways to make yourself feel bigger than you are. Karen didn't reply. She just turned on her heel and walked away, stiff, flustered, rattled in a way no one had seen before. And things were only getting started. 2 days passed. Karen kept her distance. No more walk-bys. No more clipped comments at the mailbox. Just silence, which, coming from her, felt unnatural, like a volcano pretending to be a hill. Holly went on with her day like nothing had changed. Watered her plants. Chatted with the retired couple across the street. Even baked cookies for the mail carrier. But Karen? She was stewing until the truck arrived. A sleek black SUV with no license plate on the front and windows so dark you couldn't see inside. It pulled into Holly's driveway just after noon on a Thursday. Out stepped a man in a tailored suit, holding a leather folder. Another followed, bald, broad-shouldered, with a security earpiece. Then a woman, in a crisp navy pantsuit. Karen watched from behind her curtains, practically fogging the glass with curiosity. An hour later, they were gone. But something had shifted. A ripple went through the neighborhood, quiet but powerful. Word spread faster than wildfire. The sweet girl with the flower beds had some kind of team visiting her. Some said lawyers. Others said consultants. One neighbor claimed they saw a corporate logo on the tablet the woman carried. That evening, Karen cracked. She marched across the street, all smiles and fake concern. Just wanted to check in, she chirped. Make sure everything's okay. Saw some, visitors today? Holly nodded. Yeah, just a few folks from Dad's investment firm. Karen blinked. I thought he was retired. He is, Holly said with a soft smile. Mostly. Still sits on the boards of a few Fortune 500s. Gets a little bored, you know. Karen opened her mouth, closed it. Then Holly added, still sweet as ever, oh, and he's reviewing the HOA charter. Said it's one of the sloppiest he's ever seen. The very next morning, Karen's tone shifted. She showed up at the HOA meeting wearing a blazer 2 sizes too small and a smile that screamed damage control. She cleared her throat a lot. tried to crack a joke nobody laughed at. And when Holly walked in, quiet, soft-spoken Holly, Karen's voice nearly squeaked as she said, "Oh, didn't realize you were attending." Holly just nodded, took a seat. The room fell into a weird hush. People had heard things, not just about Holly's father, but about the HOA charter, about how someone had been sending cease and desist letters over violations that weren't real, about how that someone may have been using HOA funds for things that didn't exactly line up with the budget. Turns out, people talk, especially when you spent years micromanaging flower beds and measuring grass height with a ruler. Karen tried to steer the meeting back to business as usual, monthly dues, upcoming holiday lights policy, blah, 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 but her voice trembled around the edges. And then Holly raised her hand, just once, and said, in the gentlest voice imaginable, "Has the board reviewed Section 12.4 of the enforcement bylaws?" Karen froze, because that was a clause about board overreach. How misuse of citation power could result in immediate removal pending investigation. No one in that room had ever brought it up. Most didn't even know it was there. Holly's father had, though, and apparently he'd marked it. The air turned dense. Karen's smile cracked like old paint. "We're not here to point fingers," she stammered, eyes darting. "We should be focused on community harmony." But no one was really listening to her anymore. People were looking at Holly, and not with suspicion this time, with curiosity, with respect. And for the first time in years, Karen didn't look in charge. She looked cornered. Holly didn't gloat. That's what made it worse. She wasn't smug, wasn't vindictive. She just moved differently now, calm, centered, focused, like someone who had been waiting patiently for the right moment. And now that it had come, she didn't need to raise her voice to be heard. 2 days after the HOA meeting, she sent a letter to the board. Not an email, a printed letter, neatly typed, professionally formatted, delivered in a pale blue envelope sealed with wax. And inside, she requested a formal audit of the HOA's financials, specifically surrounding unauthorized citations and discretionary spending. Attached were 3 pages of questions, not accusations, just questions. Karen got a copy, too. She went pale reading it, and when she tried to brush it off, called unnecessary, invasive, overreaching. One of the board members, a retired tax attorney named Paul, quietly cleared his throat and said, "Actually, these are fair asks. Might be time for a little transparency." That same afternoon, Holly and her dad were seen walking the neighborhood, not knocking on doors, just strolling, smiling, waving. And every neighbor who spoke to them got a version of the same thing. Holly wasn't out to burn it all down. She just wanted people to feel safe, to live without fear of fines over the color of their shutters or the curve of their garden paths. She wasn't waging war. She was offering relief. The next weekend, Holly hosted a small gathering. Nothing fancy. Lemonade, folding chairs, homemade cookies. But half the street showed up, including folks who hadn't spoken to each other in months. They laughed, shared stories, talked about changing the way things were run. Karen stood across the street, arms crossed, watching it all happen. And for the first time in a long time, nobody waved at her. It happened on a Sunday. Clear skies, kids on scooters, sprinklers misting over neatly trimmed lawns. The kind of peaceful afternoon where nothing should happen. So, naturally, everything did. Karen stormed down the sidewalk like a wind-up toy with a mission, clipboard in one hand, HOA bylaws in the other. She marched straight up to Holly's porch, where Holly and her father were enjoying tea in the shade. No one else spoke, just the sound of Karen's sandals slapping the concrete like war drums. "I've had enough," she snapped, not even bothering with a greeting. "You've turned this entire neighborhood against me." Holly blinked. "I didn't turn anyone." Karen shoved the clipboard forward. "You weaponized your father. You humiliated me. You've ruined the HOA." Holly's father didn't flinch. "The HOA ruined itself. You just helped it along." "You're not even from here," Karen hissed, her voice cracking. "You think because your daddy has money, you can just waltz in and take over?" Holly stood up then, not fast, not angry, just steadily. You didn't like me from day one, she said softly, because I didn't dress like you, didn't talk like you. I didn't fit into your picture of what this neighborhood should be. Karen's face flushed. This isn't about pictures. It's about rules. No, Holly said. It's about control. Silence. Holly looked her straight in the eye. You made this personal, Karen. You used the HOA like a weapon. And now that it's being held accountable, you're playing the victim. Karen's hands trembled, the clipboard rattling like loose change. Behind her, several neighbors had stepped out onto their porches, watching, listening, and for once, not a single person came to Karen's defense. She turned, slowly, and walked away. And just like that, the fight was over. She'd lost. The silence after Karen left felt different. Not victorious. Not smug. Just still. Holly sat back down beside her father. He poured more tea without saying a word. Like this had always been the inevitable conclusion. Across the street, neighbors lingered in their doorways. No one said much, but the way they looked at Holly, it was different now. Like they saw her for the first time. Not as a quiet girl with the thrifted porch furniture and homemade wind chimes, but as someone who'd stood her ground with grace. By Monday, the ripple effects had begun. Karen didn't resign, at least not officially, but she stopped showing up, skipped the next board meeting, then the one after that. Her garden went untended. Her blinds stayed closed. And little by little, the control she once clung to dissolved into the wind. The HOA, meanwhile, shifted. A new board formed. Half volunteers from that lemonade gathering. Half longtime residents who admitted, sheepishly, they'd been looking for a change but never wanted to rock the boat. They asked Holly to join. She declined. I don't want to run anything, she said with a small laugh. I just want to plant my lavender without getting a fine. Instead, she offered to help rewrite the community guidelines, simplify the rules, cut the nonsense, restore common sense. And she did, quietly, thoughtfully, over cups of tea and neighborly chats. And it worked. People stopped worrying about curtain colors and patio furniture styles. They started waving more, talking more, sharing tools, swapping recipes, borrowing sugar like it was the 1950s again. It wasn't perfect. Nothing ever is. But it felt lighter. And Karen? Well, her house went up for sale a month later. No big announcement. Just a for sale sign, leaning slightly in the grass. And no one really asked where she went. The day Karen's moving truck pulled out, Holly didn't even watch. She was out back, barefoot in the grass, repotting rosemary with dirt under her fingernails and sunlight on her face. No celebration. No, I told you so. Just peace. Later that afternoon, a knock came at her door. It was Paul, the retired tax attorney who'd once sat on the HOA board but now just like tinkering with his sprinkler system and reading mystery novels. He held out a small envelope. From a new board, he said with a shy smile. Just a thank you for everything. Inside was a handwritten note, signed by every member. No fancy language, just honest gratitude. And a simple gift card to the local garden shop. Holly smiled, thanked him, and tucked it inside her recipe book like something she might want to read again someday. The neighborhood wasn't perfect, but it was real now. People came by not to criticize her porch, but to ask what she was planting. A couple even asked for help starting gardens of their own. The same ones who used to avoid eye contact now lingered on the sidewalk, telling her about their kids, their dogs, their bad days. Her father stayed a while longer, helping her build a proper greenhouse. When he finally left, he kissed her forehead and said, "You did good, kiddo." She just smiled. "You too." And when people asked later, who was that guy anyway? No one really had an answer. Some said hedge fund. Others whispered about boardrooms and private planes. But Holly never confirmed a thing, because it was never about who her father was. It was about who she was. The woman who didn't yell, didn't fold, who stayed kind even when they tried to crush her, and changed everything because of it.